Hello and welcome to the Sound Lab podcast, interviews unedited. On today's show, interviews with Oliver Keane, Police Dog Hogan. We also have Gary Marx and Nico Cann, plus we throw back to 2014 where we went to Lakefest and interviewed The Beat. Yes, that's all on today's show. So shall we crack on and play you our first interview? It comes from Oliver Keane. He's been releasing music. He's released his latest EP and he's got more music on the way. So Oliver Keane, how are you?
I'm all good, thank you. How are you?
Good, yeah, not too bad. So we've been playing a new single of yours called Hey. Tell us a bit about the single.
Yeah. Hey existed for a very long time. I think it was about 3 years before I finally decided to put it on the project on Motion Sickness. And it was just one of those songs that went through so many different iterations, so many different versions. But it just always kept popping back up again, in conversations and with friends. And it just kind of felt a bit dumb not to release it in the end. So yeah, I'm happy it's really kind of out in the world now and finally, almost put behind me. I don't have to do any more vocals on it or recordings of it. So yeah, no, it's a really cool song and I'm really happy that it's out in the world now. So
yeah, absolutely. And that's off your new EP as well called Motion Sickness. For those who've not had chance yet to take a listen to the EP, what could be heard on that EP?
It's a bit more, I'd say, experimental than I've usually done before. I mean, the intro is really cool. Obviously, the title track, Motion Sickness, is just an intro. That's all it is, and it's something a concept that I've never really done before. And the rest of the tracks, I feel like as a project, they really flow together, and it's the first time that I'm really happy with the project as a whole, and I'm really, happy how all of the tracks fit together and play together. But yeah, I mean, if you want to go from crying to dancing to an indie song, then it's the perfect EP for you. So
yeah, no, absolutely. And the sound that you made with this EP, was it the sound you wanted to make, or is it simply just how it turned out in the studio?
I mean, obviously indie is what I've done for the past, however long since I was 14, 15. And I don't know. I think I've said recently a few times that it almost feels like an homage to all of the indie that I've done growing up. I'm getting to a point in music now. I wrote my first EP when I was 15. I'm now 21. I'm at the point where I kind of want to start diversifying what I'm doing. And it felt like, you know what, let's just do one last really nice project just to pay homage to everything that I've done over the past couple of years. And now that's done, I can kind of breathe a little bit and go and experiment for a little bit. So yeah.
Yeah, what sort of things are on your list to experiment with and to try to see if they work for you?
I mean, I self-produce a lot of my music now. I co-produced it for a while, but now, it's just kind of me and my computer. So, and I love just going through lists and lists of synths and drum sounds and everything, and I think just having fun with that is something that I kind of hadn't done in a while. I used to produce a lot more for other people, and that was, I loved just sitting and producing a track for hours upon end and really getting into the details. And with my own music, it was kind of hard when it was, when it's indie, you kind of have two guitars, a bass, a drummer, and a singer, and you can't really diversify too far out of that. But no, I think for a while, I'm just gonna have fun with it again and kind of no expectations, see what comes from it. So.
Yeah, fair enough. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the writing side of things as well. So for you, how do tracks normally start off?
Um, it kind of varies. I mean, I'm a guitarist by nature, it's the first instrument I learned before I even sung. So, I think a lot of the time it starts with me just messing about on the guitar. Maybe I'll come up with a cool riff, especially for the indie stuff. Obviously, guitar is so important. Sometimes I'll completely flesh out the entire instrumental before I even think about writing. But no, and then obviously sometimes it can just be I'll be walking to the shops and a lyric will come to my mind or a little melody idea. My voice notes app is a complete jumble of just me singing into my headphones really quietly in the back of the co-op. So, yeah.
Nice, nice. Do the lyrics seem to come to you fairly easy, especially when the music comes first, or can it be a challenge at times?
It can definitely be a challenge. I'm definitely prone to writer's block a lot of the time, but I just don't pressure myself a lot of the time. I think a good song will come eventually. I think it's Ed Sheeran that said every single bad song that you write is one song closer to a good song. So there's just no pressure on every single song being an absolute work of art and the best thing you've ever heard. And just like I said before, if you just have fun with it, then eventually you'll write a good song. So
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. And speaking of people hearing your songs, you've got your first headline show coming up in February. I bet you can't wait for people to hear your music.
yeah, no, I'm very excited for that. I mean, I've done support shows and support tours for a long time now. And to finally be able to say that I've got my own show is an absolute dream come true. Um, so yeah, I'm very, very excited for that.
Yeah, I bet you can. Is this the start of more touring and shows to come?
Yeah, definitely. It's something that I want to do. I mean, it's so expensive now. I mean, it always has been, but just, I mean, recently it's got absolutely mental, the cost of touring and playing
Mm.
shows. But I mean, hopefully, yeah. I mean, and the dream is to go out into Europe and play a few out there. You know, I've done a lot of shows out in Germany and Rotterdam and all those places in Europe, and I'd love to go back and do my own shows out there, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, support tours, I'm sure you're wanting to be getting on. And then there's festival season as well. Do you hope to do some of those too?
Yeah, yeah, of course. I mean, festivals is something that I've kind of dabbled in the past, but we've never really, fully sent it into festivals. And I think it'd be really fun to do a full, festival season run, just go from play. I love festivals. I mean, you can't beat them. I remember we played Neighborhood a couple of years ago, and we were playing the Viola Beach stage, which
Mm.
is, what would be considered the smallest stage. And, most of the audiences, they were pulling 100, 200 people, and I remember we did a capture in the bottom cover, and just everybody that was walking past stopped and listened. And we must have had, 1,000, 2,000 people there. And you just never know with festivals. It can be incredible like that. So, yeah, I love them.
Yeah, nice. And as you're fairly new to the music world, I'd like to find out what made you do this in the first place.
Oh God, a lack of being able to do anything else, to be quite honest. I hated education. I was your classic. I skipped school every single day, and all I could think about was music. And then by the time I was, 16, 17, and had to think about going off to college or and get my life together, I thought, well, there's only one thing that I'm really actually that good at, and
Mm.
that is music and writing songs, and I love it. And I thought, why not? And yeah, it's just kind of, I've never really thought about it, to be honest. I might have a mental crisis now that you've asked me that.
Yeah, no, please don't. And I'm sure you've got some aspirations of things you want to achieve in your music career. If you had to pick one thing, what would that one thing be?
Um, God, there's so many.
Mm.
I think a big one for me would definitely be doing like a headline tour, a full headline tour. Obviously there's so many dream venues, Madison Square Gardens, everything. And I think it'd just be really fun to do a full tour and just tick off every single one of my dream venues.
Yeah.
So hopefully one day.
And I hope you enjoyed our first interview of the show with Oliver Keane. What a great guy he is. Some great things to come from him. Now, we are all over social media, so come and find us at The Sound Lab Yes on all the socials, and you can also check out the website, thesoundlabuk.co.uk, so go and check that out as well. Now it's time for our second interview, and this week comes from Police Dog Hogan. They released an album just last year. They are heading out on tour with tickets still available, so make sure you go and check those dates out on their website. So we're going to hand over to Police Dog Hogan. How are you?
I am very good, Jim. I am very good on this lovely morning.
Good. Absolutely brilliant. So we have been playing a new single of yours called Lightning Strike. Tell us a bit about the single, first of all.
Lightning Strike is the title song from a record that we made. We say by accident in May last year down in Devon, and it kind of describes the whole album, which is the album was a lightning strike. We weren't intending to make a record. And it's, as many songs are, about a coup de foudre in a relationship, being struck by love, I suppose, if we boil it down in a mildly humorous way.
Yeah, nice. And that is off your new record. I think it's your sixth record in total now. How does this record sound in comparison to the previous ones of yours?
Well, it's very different. This album was recorded essentially completely live. We went to the studio. Pete Miles, who runs the studio, which is called Middle Farms, has a 2-inch tape machine, and we didn't really realize the consequences of agreeing to record it on 2-inch tape until we were already recording it, and then we realized we couldn't change anything. It was live. No technology was deployed post 1972. So maybe a little bit of backing vocals, maybe a tambourine, but essentially it's a live record. And so we just kept going and recording songs. We ended up recording 11 songs in 2.5 days, and so it has a much liver sound. And in fact, we've left a lot of the chat that happens between the tracks, so that it welcomes people into the process of how we did it.
Yeah, nice. And as it is that little bit different, is it the sound that you wanted to make when you recorded it, or is it just simply how you turned it out when you went to record it?
Well, we do. We started off at the very beginning wanting to essentially be a kind of bluegrass band. We were very inspired by a band called Chatham County Line, and they were not a absolutely traditional bluegrass band. They had a highly melodic bass player, and they wrote really, really great songs that were more than bluegrass. And we wanted to do that. We thought that would be quite straightforward. We'd stand around a microphone, play the songs. It turns out it's a lot more difficult than it looks, and it's taken us really quite a long time to master it. But we've been doing the first half of our show in that style, around a microphone, and I guess this was a kind of formalizing of that. It was the style which we were recording. We were recording all in the same room at the same time with a limited number of microphones. If you wanted an instrument to be louder, you needed to stand closer to the microphone. There was no turning things up and down. And I guess the sound is just the result of that, in quite an unprocessed way. It's our audience really, really like it because effectively, surprisingly, it reflects our live shows better than anything we've done so far.
Nice. And you did touch on touring and doing shows, and you have got a tour coming up throughout March into April across the UK, but you can't wait to be doing even more shows.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to that. It's the second half, essentially, of the Lightning Strike tour, which we did a bunch of shows in the autumn, leading up to some shows in London in sort of November, December, and we're really excited because it went really, really well. It was fantastic, and so we're pretty excited about going out and doing it all again. And we're going up to Scotland even this time, which we very rarely do. Turns out they've got their own folk music up there, so they don't really need us. But anyway, we're going.
Good. Are you hoping to go overseas as well at some point, or?
We relatively rarely go. We've played in Nashville. We've played in France. We're going to play a literary festival in Greece in October, the Cardamili Festival, which will be fun. We are literally the band. And we're keen to tour in Holland. We're keen to tour in Denmark. We've just got to get around to getting our act together to organise it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And once this current tour is going to be over and done with, we're then into festival season. You hoping to be doing some festival shows this year?
Yeah, I think some festivals will emerge. We haven't really got very much lined up quite yet, but we love playing festivals, and we've been really lucky with the festivals. We would have played Black Deer, but I think Black Deer is happening this year, so they'd asked us earlier, but I think that's not happening. There's various ones on our bucket list. We want to do Cambridge Folk Festival. We've done really quite a lot of the different festivals. But yes, we love a festival because we're a sort of 7-piece, so we're a big noise and and a lot of joy and uplift. So we're quite a good proposition for festivals.
Yeah, and mentioning of the 7-piece, it kind of ties me into the question about writing. How do tracks normally start off for you guys, and then at what point does everyone get involved and have their input?
Yeah, good question. I'm the main writer, and so songs evolve in lots of different ways. And again, sometimes they come from the words, from an idea, and sometimes they come from a tune and just some chords, and you think, how does that sound interesting, and evolves from there. Generally, I write the songs on an acoustic guitar, and I take them to the band. Some of the songs survive exactly as they are. They effectively end up being more or less just decorated in a sense of arrangement, and some get torn apart limb from limb and reconstructed, sometimes over many years. We have a theory that nothing is wasted, even the bits that have sort of sat on the junk heap for a while. Somebody will suddenly remember that bit and pull it, go into the shed, pull it out, and it becomes a middle eight or a piece of tune. And and I guess that with as the writer, you take the songs to the band and you kind of see their reaction. And if you believe in a song enough, you'll take it back to the band 3 or 4 times, despite it being not necessarily rejected, but just sort of greeted with a that's interesting. Keep going, and if after 3 or 4 times you've still got no reaction, it's a goner. But so generally you start for an album with about 40 starting points, I guess. I don't know what you think. You don't really.
It sounds about right. It's a common thing.
Yeah, and things just fall by the wayside. They just naturally, things rise, things fall. Things, they sort themselves out over time.
Yeah. What happens to the tracks that don't make it onto the album? Are you ones to revisit them down the line, or would you simply just bin them off and start again the next time?
Yeah, a bit of both, actually. I mean, there are quite a lot of songs that you just come back to a year ago and a year later, and you think, I can't imagine what we saw in that. It just sort of feels particularly, actually, probably more from a lyrical point of view than anything else. You think, oh, I just don't really like the feeling that evoked. And other things you come back to and you just realize, like there's a song that we recorded a year ago for the next record, and we like playing it live, but by playing it live, it sort of revealed that it had that there was something wrong with it. There's an interesting thing that people say. They say if people tell you there's something wrong with something you're doing, they're probably right. If they tell you how to fix it, they're probably wrong. So you've got to walk in that divide. So you need to pay attention when something feels that it's not quite working out, and then you find ways to sort of keep fiddling with it until it works. So some songs go. There's a song in our repertoire called Crackington, which is about North Cornwall, and the idea that when you're 24, living in a post office van and surfing is a pretty cool life, but it isn't such a cool life when you're 44. And there's quite a lot of that happens in North Cornwall. So, but that was a song. I think it took 4 or 5 years, and it nearly made it onto 2 albums before it did. Producers have points of view.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched on the next record. We won't go too much into it because you're still on this one, but I'd like to know if you know the direction you're thinking of going with it.
Yeah, very much so. It's mostly recorded. I mean, it's the record we were hoping probably to have had out nearly by now, but the Lightning Strike record just manifested itself in our midst and forced its way to the top of the agenda. So we're quite well into that. It's much more of a country rock record. It's produced in a much more don't hesitate to say considered way, but it's much more in line. It's probably, in terms of our previous 2 records to this one, it's much more a sort of third part of a sort of almost like a trilogy. But it's pretty different to Lightning Strike.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there with Police Dog Hogan. Now, it's coming up towards our 3rd interview shortly, but in the meantime, as you're listening to this, I'm pretty sure on Spotify, you can also check out our Spotify playlist. That brings you some brand new, unsigned and up-and-coming artists that you might not hear anyone else. We've listened to them, we love them, we think you'll love them too, so make sure you go and check out the fresh playlist here on Spotify. Now, it's time for our 3rd interview, and this week comes from Gary Marx. So, Gary Marx, how are you?
I'm really well, thank you. Yeah, up in Yorkshire.
Good. Yeah, how's it up there? It's a little bit wet down here at the moment.
Yeah, it's similar. Yeah, all the beautiful snow's gone. So
I know.
The picturesque has been replaced by the
typical
the
British
dreary.
weather.
Yeah. But otherwise good.
Good. Well, the good news is after this interview, we'll play a new single of yours called "Dressed Up, Messed Up Kid." Tell us a bit about the single.
Yeah. Do you say you want to hear something about it?
Yeah, tell us a bit about the single.
Well, the things that will become instantly clear on listening that it's a duet. There are two singers on it. And when I originally wrote it, it was that wasn't the vision. I just wrote it, and I sort of thought of it. I mean, the whole collection of songs I've recently done is a bit glam inspired, but this was sort of a little off to a side. And I saw it's a little bit like a Lou Reed type glam era song, just a kind of chugging along thing. So I sang it, and I sing in a very almost like a narration. I don't really like Johnny Cash or Lou Reed or Leonard Cohen, all those people. I'm just the narrator of the song. And then I'd got a list of people I wanted to invite, one of whom was my good friend called Jane Murphy. And I couldn't think which song to give her at first to sing. And then it struck me that the lyrics for this would work as a duet. So I did it with her, me and her sharing the vocals. And then I got the idea of contacting Miles Hunt. So Miles really liked the song. I sent him three songs and he liked all three of them, but especially this one. So he replaced he replaced my vocal. So yeah, the finished version is Miles and Jane sharing the singing, and yeah, really pleased with the way it came out.
Nice, yeah, absolutely. And that's off your new record called Green Ginger Jive. It's
Yeah,
half out now because it's out on vinyl, but it's coming out digitally as well in
yeah,
March. So,
yeah.
what was the reason behind splitting it like that?
It was sort of a sentimental thing in a way. I mean, the whole album is wrapped up in my growing up in and around Hull. So I didn't live in Hull for that long, but Hull was sort of the center of the places that I lived nearby. And then I ended up living there as a teenager, 18 to 19 and a bit. And so the town, the city was a big part of the inspiration for it. So I gave them the first kind of go at it, if you like. So it has come out in its physical form on a small label from Hull, who are run by a guy called Gary Marx. So it was irresistible to me. I'd got this connection. I was like, okay, so that's going to be that's how it's got to come out in the first instance. It was sort of like because it was a throwback sounding project that I wanted to be, ideally I'd have brought out an 8-track cartridge, I think, but some antique
Yeah,
format first. That was the idea, really, that it would
nice.
exist in this sort of 70s bubble for a little while. And then it could be devoured by the world in its current, in the streaming sense and everything else.
Yeah, most definitely. And it's been about 15 years, I think, since you last released your own music. Why
Yeah,
did it take so long?
well, I mean, that is a very good question. I mean, there's no real reason, as in, I make music all the time, and then sometimes I talk myself out of releasing it because a lot of the fun for me is not in that part. I don't know if that sounds odd, but a lot of the fun is in the creation of stuff. And then I don't necessarily need the validation all the time to go, oh, tell me that was good. I just do it and then get on with other things in my life. I'm an active kind of guy. I don't just make music. So yeah, there was no other reason than that. I'm sort of sitting on two or three different recording projects, thinking, well, which order to bring them out in. So sometimes the people think I'm trying to be contrary, like I bring the least expected thing out first. But it's not. It's not really that. It's just the way it happens.
What else have you got on the way?
Well, there was a collection of songs I started around the same time. Some of these on Green Ginger Jive go back not quite to lockdown time, but maybe 2021, the oldest of them. And around that time, when we were all locked up for a while, I taught myself to play the violin. Not well, but I just got the rudiments of violin. And so I started writing some songs that incorporated that. And I will loosely say they're closer to the Sisters of Mercy legacy that people would sort of know me for, I think.
Mm.
They're darker, more intense kind of brooding sort of tracks. And this almost John Cale-esque, doing my impression of his viola playing, that crept in, not on all the songs, but a few, and it gives them an added spice, as it were. So those songs were written long, long ago and could go through the same process as the Green Ginger Jive stuff did, as in just get the vocals to a better quality. And I may take the lead from this project and get some other people in to sing. Because as I say, I'm sort of like a narrator. I like to sing, but I appreciate that people don't necessarily want to hear me sing 9 songs in a row. Because there ain't a lot of variety in what I do. So the guests might feature again. Not those same ones, but yes, some
Yeah,
people.
mix it up a little bit. Yeah. And you mentioned the Sisters of Mercy. You're also in Ghost Dance as well. What's it like writing and releasing music under your own name compared to that of being in a band?
Um, well, there are sort of good bits and bad bits. Obviously, I don't have to negotiate with anybody, which is quite a relief at times. Yeah, you can feel a little bit out on a limb, um, and I suppose both those bands were functioning well before social media was a big deal and all the rest of it. So you weren't getting that direct feedback. Somebody wasn't telling you how bad or good you were, every minute of every day. This song's terrible,
Yeah.
flashing up on your phone. So you didn't really need that network of support so much then. But I suppose there are times I'd quite like that. To be fair, the thing about the guests was that it wasn't just like they came in and recorded something and then went. They had some kind of input and love of the project. So I was in touch with them for longer than just the time it took to sing a song. So yeah, that was kind of like the good bit of being in a band, I suppose. The camaraderie of it, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. I'd like to talk a bit about the writing side of things as well. So for you, how do tracks normally start off?
Um, well, I did a stint of actually talking about and teaching songwriting to people. So through that this is early 2000s. Through that process, I got very into being very flexible about how I did it. So I like the idea of it not being the same process. With the Sisters, it was always the same process for me. I don't mean the other members, but it would be generate a musical idea, build it up, which usually meant going to like a porter studio or something, or even in the later days into an actual studio and demoing it. But it was all the music made to sound impressive first, and only then would you give any consideration to the words, the tune that the singing was going to be. Sometimes you might have a title in mind that you stuck to, but that was it. That was that really rigid thing. And then I got out of that a little bit in Ghost Dance. I varied. Sometimes I'd start and have a lyric, and then through this job of actually teaching people about something, I would do any which way. So I might just pluck a phrase out the air and write 5 lines of lyric and then set that to music and then develop the music. There could be things that I just took a drum beat.
Mm.
On this album, Green Ginger Jive, obviously there were some things that needed a specific kind of groove. Whether it was a Bolan kind of thing or a Suzi Quattro thing. So that might have been the starting point, but not, it wouldn't be like, oh, I'll do the whole 3-4 minutes of that and then only then do something else. It would be like a trigger to start. Oh, that phrase sounds good, singing against, and it might, as I say, it might just be a drum beat I was singing to. But yeah, so any which way. But a lot of the lyric always a lot sooner in the process, I suppose, is the thing that categorizes these songs as opposed to even early Ghost Dance songs were still like those Sisters songs, as in get loads of music and only then start putting the singing on. It's sort of like almost like a a last thought. Sometimes think that's how Noel Gallagher used to write those Oasis songs, they were sort of like, oh well, it's a good tune, so the words don't really matter.
Do you find it a struggle to create the lyrics at times?
Not at all. No, largely because of that thing I said, where I was encouraging people to be pretty open with what they might use as lyric.
Mm.
And so I obviously took my own advice and said, a word like deck chair can be in a song. It's not illegal. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be baby and this and, heart every line. So once you get the bigger vocabulary in, which obviously lots and lots of writers, are very good at, once you get that bigger vocabulary, then it's and the subject matter could be this or it could be that, or it might not make sense if you like someone like Brian Eno and go look at the lyrics on an early Eno solo album. You know, they're just good sounds. Once you allow all these different ways, then I don't get stuck. I'm not looking for catharsis or something when I write a lyric. That might come into it, but that's not an essential component. Or being clever is not an essential component. Sometimes I think, oh, that was a clever line, but I'm not demanding that of everyone. So if you give yourself all those options, then I don't get stuck writing really.
Yeah, fair enough. I look forward to your deck chair song coming on any release soon.
Yeah, it's got seagulls in it. Yeah, deck chairs and seagulls.
Write it down. Write it down before you forget. And people will want to see you doing some live stuff. What's the plan for doing some shows?
Well, the immediate plan is I will be performing on Saturday, the 25th of January. I didn't have massive plans to do it live, partly because there are other people involved in the record and I couldn't hope to coordinate all of them. But yeah, I did as I said, I tried to give Hull the first bite of it. So I did a show in Hull, just a small thing, in the premises of the record label in Hull.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. It kind of surprised me in a way that I enjoyed it as much as I did. It was an important thing to do for me personally, but I didn't anticipate that it would really be good fun. And yeah, so immediately after that, this thing, as I mentioned, that social media is quite different now. So the next day, clips of me doing the show had circulated, on YouTube, whatever. So I got a mate immediately ringing me up saying, can you do Leeds? Can you do this? Can you do that? So I agreed to do Leeds just because of my emotional connection with the city. So that's on the 25th of January. And that'll be close. The thing in Hull wasn't a gig. It was like, I call it like an audience with or cabaret or something like that. I was speaking a lot. The lead show will still have a flavour of that, but it will be closer to a gig. There will be more songs and more full songs because I sometimes just do a little bit of half a song just to demonstrate how the song went. But yeah, so I'll do that and I'll see if I can have a similar good experience, and that might tempt me to do some other shows, whether it be outside of the UK or other major cities. I don't know. It's that emotional connection that's important with the two that I've, like the one I've done and the one I've lined up. So we'll see how that goes because it's not. I'm not like a guy doing promo for my latest album exactly. I do. I want to put on a memorable show. So this particular one will be very specific to Leeds, my time living in Leeds, which was like the pivotal moment in my life, really. So you can't do that everywhere. Can't go to Reading and do that. I have been late. I've got laid in Reading, but it's not going to fill out 50 minutes of talk, is it?
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there with Gary Marx. Now, we also have this very podcast, these exact interviews on our radio show. Yeah, we've shortened them down a little bit and we've added loads of music to our radio show. There's also a live session on there as well. And if you want to take a listen, head to our website, thesoundlabuk.co.uk, and the link to the radio show is on there. So go and check that out. Maybe after this podcast has finished. So it's now time for our fourth interview, and this week comes from Nico Cann. Great guy, great musician. He's released a debut track. He's got more on the way. So Nico Cann, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Good. Great stuff. So we've been playing your latest single, Running in the Rain. Tell us a little bit about the single, first of all.
Yeah, so I began writing it 2 years ago in late 2022, because I was exiting from a very tough period of my life, and in a very dark moment, I somehow found the inspiration to write something very uplifting. Well, the song covers very dark themes. The lyrics are quite sad in a way, but I chose to merge the sadness and toughness of life with a very uplifting music. It's very powerful, like the arrangements and and the energy that comes through the song. So it's a blend of both uh mm, harshness and also like um a very positive uh look towards a brighter future.
Yeah, nice, nice. And that's coming off your debut EP. What can we expect to hear on the release?
Yeah, so the debut EP is called Silver Lining, which again has a similar message to Running in the Rain, because a silver lining, like it's something, uh, it's a little uh spot of light at the end of the tunnel. Like, so again, it's a message of, it has a message of not surrendering to life's uh bad aspects and suffering, but to keep going and like find the strength, the inner strength uh to stand up again and run.
Nice,
So
nice.
yeah.
Yeah, and I'd like to talk about the writing side of things. So for you, how do tracks normally start off?
So I don't have a specific way of writing, but for running, I remember uh I somehow started writing the second verse, and then I began writing the music. But I usually like I usually write music first and lyrics afterwards. But
Mhm.
I don't. There's no rule. So yeah.
Yeah, nice. And once you've created the music, how easy do you find it to add the lyrics to the music you've created?
It depends. Some like it is easy 10% of the times and very hard the other 90%. But it's cause I think a good song comes, I've sometimes spent a lot of time trying to write a good song, but it doesn't happen. And maybe like something can get done in a way quicker way, like in and be a lot more effective.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I just have some moments of inspiration that work.
Yeah, yeah, I bet. And people want to see you doing some live shows, I'm sure. What's your plan for doing some gigs?
Yes, so I have a band, so we'll be starting playing live. Our first show will be the next on the 7th of February, so in 3 weeks or so in London. So we're very excited. And then we're starting to play live both in London and and in Europe, so in Italy, France, and yeah, and hopefully we'll be get on going and touring. So yeah, it's gonna be very exciting. Also because I really love playing live, and my band is amazing. I have a very good energy with them, so we can't wait to get going, really.
Yeah, I bet. Is as you're fairly new to the world of music, I'd like to find out how you got into this in the first place.
Yeah. So, well, music was ever present in my house, in my homestead when I was young. So I've always been fed with uh, like English music, rock, Beatles, the Stones, all the great influences. Because my dad he's a music fanatic. He doesn't play any instrument, but he has a huge knowledge, and he passed that knowledge to me, and then I start exploring myself, the music world. And then over time, I began playing like classical piano. Then I switched to, well, then I started learning rock songs on the piano instead of classical music. And then I just switched, like I started playing electric guitar, and as time went by, I started to write my own stuff, and then I decided that I wanted to be a songwriter. So yeah.
Nice. And you must have aspirations of things you want to achieve in the world of music. What's one thing that you really want to do in the music world?
Well, it's always hard to talk about this because like it's it's true that I would be lying if I'm not aspiring to gain success, but it it's it's because I care so much about uh, writing um, something that can connect to other people in a very deep way, as just as mm, just as the my influences gave something to me to that I feel like it's has changed me and helped me grow as a person. So I really care about the connection between the songwriter and the audience, and to know that I can deliver something that people can relate to and make their own, and yeah, so that's all about.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there with Nico Cann. Now it's time for the part of the show where we like to throw back in time to interviews we did a number of years ago. And we're going to hand back to 2014, where we went to Lakefest and we had a chat with the late, great Ranking Roger from the Beat UK. That's the English Beat. Great guy, great chat. We sadly lost him a few years ago, but I had to bring this back up because he is a fantastic chatter, and I love this interview to bits. So, Ranking Roger of The Beat, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yes, Jim. All right. My name's Ranking Roger, and I'm the singer for The Beat. We were around from the early 80s, late 70s, and we had quite a few hits, probably about 8 hits in the UK. And The Beat lasted the first time around for about 4 years, and then we split up, formed other bands like General Public and the Fine Young Cannibals and bands like that. And well, about 10 years ago we got back together again, some of us did, and we go out as The Beat again, and we're playing all the old tunes and people are loving it more and more. So we slowly built it up. So that's who The Beat are. Some of our hits are tunes like Tears of a Clown, Mirror in the Bathroom, Hands Off, She's Mine, Too Nice to Talk To, Can't Get Used to Losing You, and of course the famous Stand Down Margaret, and amongst others. So that's a Ranking full stop as well. There's loads of them.
Do you want to tell us a bit more about the more well-known singles that you've brought out?
Yeah, well, obviously there was 2 sides to The Beat. There was a political side to The Beat, which people loved because they needed that kind of reality music, I think, after the punk thing, because punk was based on realities, and what the people were singing about were the hardships that were going on in life at the time. So, you know, our two-tone ska, if you like, happened to have that same kind of message. It just wasn't as hardcore as punk was, but we carried the same message. It was the people's music. But there was also the commercial side, which things like Hands Off, She's Mine, you know, and Too Nice to Talk To, and songs like that, which were, you know, definitely designed to more for the charts, you know. So I think The Beat were really balanced in that way, that we were political, but yet we had the hits and the catchy melodies and the love songs.
So, out of all the singles you've released, all your songs, which one's your favourite?
I've got to say it's a cross between Mirror in the Bathroom and Too Nice to Talk To.
Do you you want to give us a little rendition of it now?
Not really, no, but the record I know you'll play after you do this interview.
Okay.
I haven't quite warmed up my voice yet.
That's a shame. So, are you looking forward to your performance today at Lakefest?
I am very much. I mean, I've had a quick look at the crowd, and, you know, there were certainly at least 2,000 people out there, and that was just when the band were just coming on. But there's still, you know, a good couple of hours before we go on, so I know it's going to be pretty rammed in there, and I look forward to keeping everyone warm, move your dancing feet and rock to the beat. I know it's going to be good, and the response that we get from the people of Gloucestershire, should I say, is immense, and enough respect, and we'll be back.
So, what's been the best moment for you as part of the beat so far?
I think the best part of being in the beat and part of the beat is being able to go round the world and sing Mirror in the Bathroom, and no matter if you're in Japan, Australia, even Russia, and it could be France or Germany, everybody knows that tune, and that, to me, that says something. And also the fact, I'm pulling two things in here now, the fact that our music always stood for peace, love and unity, so it's everybody music, it doesn't matter what colour you are, and that has always been a main feature of the beat, and that's why we merged the musics. You know, we were one of the first bands to merge so many different styles together. I mean, more than, you know, the Specials or Madness or the Selector did, we really experimented.
So, what do you get up to when you're not doing anything music related?
Well, when I'm not doing anything musically related, because most of my things in life is musically related. If I'm not listening to new MP3s out there or new songs out there, I'm in my studio, which looks like a UFO, actually. It looks like a flying saucer. It's a circular building. I'm in there building new rhythms all the time, but to keep fit, I do a lot of inline skating, which is rollerblading, and people might know it as that. And that keeps me fit, and I've done that for about 20 years, and I teach people, and I'm a different devil on those to what I am on stage. You know, it's another way of letting all the energy out and getting the same euphoria that I get on stage.
So, who are the biggest artists that you've worked with before?
I've got to say The Clash, R.E.M., Talking Heads, The Police. I mean, they're amongst a few. Obviously, we've worked with the Specials and UB40 and worked with people from Dexys. I mean, the list is endless, but I think the people who I most enjoyed working with, well, the Specials tour in 1982 or 83, we did 4 shows in Ireland with the Specials and the tour double. You know, it was like a double headline bill. They headlined one night, we headlined the other night, you know, that kind of thing. Took it in turns. That was one of the best things that happened. And touring with The Clash was so much of an education to me. Absolutely eye and mind opening. Fantastic. Never seen anything like it. What rock and roll was supposed to have been. And touring with The Police as well. And touring with them guys, I learnt a lot about stage presence and how to get an audience going, basically, you know. So yeah, I've had a good learning experience, and that's what I see it as. And that's why I suppose I try and remain grounded, because all those people I've spoke about are all grounded people.
Yeah. So, what's the weirdest thing that's happened to you as part of the beat?
I think becoming part of it, because it started off. When I first met the beat, I was in a punk band, and I was a drummer for a punk band. And then within 2 weeks, I'd already done my first appearance on stage with them. And within a month, I was a member of that band. So I started off as a punk drummer and became the front man of, you know, the next big thing that was going to hit in the charts. And I wasn't aware of that, you know, but being in the right place at the right time and being lucky and just being... And maybe, you know, the fact that I've always been a very outgoing person and very easy to get on with is what mattered in a band like The Beat. You had to be an easygoing type of person to be in it, you know.
So, I'm going to say the word Dread-Eye.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Dread-Eye, Return of the Dread-Eye. Yes. Well, yeah, it's a great way to come back in a way, you know, after going through all the retro stuff and coming back with something new. We have a tune called Return of the Dread-Eye, which is, I suppose, you know, it's me, but it's really me and my son, Rankin Jr., who's also on stage with me most nights. You know, we've got quite a few tunes, and we've got loads of people remixing them at the moment, and people should start hearing stuff towards the end of the year. So if you hear Dread-Eye, you know that's Rankin Roger and Rankin Jr., father and son in combination, coming your way one time.
Okay, so finally, you've been on Top of the Pops.
Yes.
Twice, I believe?
Twice.
I think I read it was twice. Oh, he's counting.
At least 10 to 12 times.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So,
At least 10 to 12 times. Yeah.
So, what was it like being on Top of the Pops?
Top of the flops, as we used to call it. Yeah, well, it was great in one way that, you know, you'd go into the BBC and you go to the part where they did the Top of the Pops, and you'd walk down the corridor. This is like the artist. And as you walk down the corridors, you'd see the artist's name on their door, and some of them would be open, and you'd walk down and you'd see, you know, Duran Duran on one side, you see Elton John somewhere, and you see like Phil Lynott, and it's like Phil Lynott going, all right, Rog, Phil Lynott knows me, he knows me, that boy from Thin Lizzy knows me, and I was just like, ah! So I shook his hand, spoke to him for about 5 minutes, one of the nicest. I says to him, I thought you was going to be like really cocky and big-headed, you know, but you're such a nice, you could see the guy was such a down-to-earth, relaxed, down-to-earth nice guy. I thought, I want to be like that guy. Open to anyone. He just, all right, mate, with his Irish accent. All right, Rog. And I'm just like, another one that shot me was Paul McCartney saying, all right, Rog, you know, like your music, what you've done with the beat. And I'm thinking, shoot, we stole our name from you, man, the Beatles. But, you know, it's good, some great memories, you know, thinking back. One of the nicest people I've ever met was Sting. I spent enough time with him and in his company, and just such a nice, balanced and spiritual person, very spiritual, and I like that.
Yeah. So, how can people buy your music and find out more about you if they want to?
Yeah. Well, they can go to thebeatofficial.com. They can either go there, or they can. Demon Records are the ones who've put all the box sets and everything out, so that you should be able to find stuff on Amazon, you know, something like that. So they're out there anyway, or even iTunes, you know, I'm sure they're out there too, like that. But I would, there's two things. I mean, obviously I would tell people to go out and get these so-called box sets that have just come out, because on each box set there's loads of interviews, loads of DVD stuff of you know, all the videos from that time. You know, like all the radio sessions we did with John Peel and Kid Jensen and all that, they were all there, and it's like a great package for the collector. And the other thing we brought out, obviously, we're bringing all the albums out on, you know, hard, heavy vinyl. Yeah. So that's what's going down now. The first one's just come out, Warpen, which was the second album. And, you know, the DJs have been raving about it, saying, yeah, it's the real thing, you know, and we're really happy. So, you know, I've noticed, as far as when I go out and I watch DJs now, all the young kids, right, are now coming up with discs. They're not using the CJDs or CDJs or whatever they're called. They're going back to slate, you know, they're going back to plastic discs, and it's so much of an honour. You can see them treasuring it and, you know, reading it like it's some kind of gold dust, you know. So I'm glad that appreciation has come back. It was always nice to pick up a record and see who's playing drums or who produced it, whereas on a CD you can't be bothered because the writing's too small.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there from Lakefest 2014, where we had a chat with Ranking Roger from The Beat UK. And that is the end of the show for another week, I am afraid. But don't you worry, we will be back next week with more great interviews. Loads of stuff as well on next week's show. I can't wait to bring it to you. But if you can't wait until then, social media at The Sound Lab Yes on all the socials. And you can also check out the website, thesoundlabuk.com. and I'll see you next week right here on Interviews Unedited. Goodbye.